Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend. Everyone, welcome. How's it, Mark? How's it, Martha? How's it, Sungani Bonali? And Dan. I don't know if Dan can hear me in the background. So we had an episode planned, but it turned out to be a solo episode. It is what it is. It's not a problem. It's absolutely storming outside, so we're inside, as you can see. Nice little bit of change of scenery with an ice cold Numuti. Get them here at Horizen Gym. Cheeky plug. But on a serious note, we've got a really exciting project underway at the gym. We are fast approaching 2 years old as a business. Sue has been here from day one, so have I. And I thought, why not draw a little bit of a timeline of how we got to the point we are now. And I'll take it really seriously back to when I started in fitness. But basically, we've been in this space since November 2022. It is now about to be September 2024, so almost 2 years. And we're going to start operating in our new space in October 2024. So it'll be about 2 years. And it's quite a kind of short timeline to move locations, but there are a number of factors that have obviously contributed to that, which we'll get into. But I think it'll be cool to take you along the timeline of what brought Horizen to this point. So I'll take it back to when I decided that I wanted to actually share fitness with people. And it wasn't yet at a point where I thought I wanted it to be a career. So this was 2018. I was a second year student at Stellenbosch University. I was doing my BCom undergrad as a student athlete playing rugby at Marty's. And I thought all of those things were all good and well. Obviously, the rugby was paying the bills. I was fortunate enough to have a bursary there, but I wasn't so much in love with rugby as I was at high school. It was definitely a duty. And the studying was kind of the same thing. I wouldn't say I was particularly interested in what I studied at that point. Because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I was definitely lacking an outlet for doing something that fulfilled me and made me feel, lit my fire and made me feel passionate. And I mean, the one thing I could identify in my day-to-day that I really enjoyed was going to the gym. And at that point, obviously, I'd been connected to movement for a long time. Rugby was a big part of my life, and that had its own kind of exercise stuff related to it. But long story short, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm doing the rugby all the time. I'm doing the studying a lot of the time. And, I've got a little bit of time outside of that to do something that fills my cup up a little bit more outside of socializing and the kind of quintessential Stellenbosch boozing, the extramural activity that is probably most popular in that town. So I thought, let me get some friends together and take them for outdoor classes. So a mate of mine gave me some equipment. It was like a barbell that had that the spinning kind of nut thing that you'd spin to kind of tighten the weights onto it. So I had that. I think I had 2 mats, and then I don't know what else I had. I may have had an ab roller or something. And I went to Jan van Riebeeck Park. And it started out with, I think, 2 or 3 mates. I said, look, let's go train at 6 in the morning before lectures. And I'll take you guys for the session. I'll do them with you as well. So it was about 2 or 3 friends, as I said, then grew to 4 or 5 friends, eventually 6 to 8 friends. And then it was kind of that I don't have enough equipment for all these people. So I started doing slots in the evening as well. So if I'm remembering correctly, it was a Monday and a Wednesday, and it was a 6 a.m. and a 6 p.m. So before lectures and an after lectures thing. The 6 p.m.s sometimes didn't work because of my rugby schedule, but where I could, I made it work. Basically, it just fit in around my studies and the rugby, but I was doing it completely for free. And if I'm remembering correctly, this is the end of 2018. It may have been the end of 2019, but it's fine. Anyways, so kind of continued doing that. I had a few other things on the go as well that kind of I tried for work. I did like this kind of events thing, but obviously that had nothing to do with fitness. But long story short, I got to the end of my degree and I decided that I wanted a nice kind of, I suppose, I wanted to go like a safe route. So I took a job in outdoor media, which I knew I wasn't going to like. I could tell from the first interview that it was something that I absolutely just thought was extremely boring. But I thought, you know what, it's good pay and it's a good role and I can learn something. So the outdoor classes kind of fell by the wayside a little bit. By this stage, I'd moved back to Cape Town, and this was this was beginning of 2020, end of 2019. So I took the role end of 2019, and I kind of like was fully into it at the beginning of 2020. And then I was still doing the training thing on the side, but it wasn't my main thing. So again, it was something I kind of fitted in around everything else. And at that stage, it was less so outdoor classes and more kind of mobile PT. So I had a few clients that I would see before work. And maybe sometimes after work, but after work was tricky because sometimes work ran late. And I did that for about 6 months. Absolutely hated it. And yeah, quit the job halfway through the year. So it was only about 6 to 8 months actually in it. And I thought, you know what, I'm not continuing with this. And at that stage, I decided, okay, I'm going full time into PT. Now, this was kind of beginning of, well, end of 2020, beginning of 2021. It was tricky because we were quite deep into COVID at that stage. So having like going to people's houses was tricky, but I got around it by taking people for sessions on the prom and wearing a mask and everything like that. And I did that for a while. I did that up until the beginning of 2022. So as time kind of went by, the kind of free outdoor classes shifted to paid outdoor classes, and obviously I was taking PT as well, so that kind of allowed me to have a little bit of income outside of the corporate thing. And I started buying some more equipment, which I then kind of pedaled around or drove around in my mom's car at that stage, which she left here because she moved overseas. And that was kind of, that was the 9 to 5 for a chunk, was kind of a mixture of driving to people's houses for those who were open to it, because COVID times people were a little bit on edge, and then otherwise just taking people out on the prom. And beginning of 2022, got hit with a big curveball. Life shifted on its axis quite a bit, and that was when my mom passed away. So she passed away the 26th of Jan 2022, and that kind of, I was still taking clients throughout that time, but that shifted my perspective a little bit in the short term, because I was kind of like, ooh, my safety net is gone. I need to do something a little bit more predictable in terms of generating income, and personal training or running any sort of business that is your own has a lot of volatility. It's like you carry all the risk, and earnings fluctuate. It's not a set salary at the end of the month, kind of no matter what you do. So I thought to myself, what are my skills? What's available? Let me get something a little bit more stable. So I went back into a corporate role, and I was selling data and cloud consulting services for a UK-based international data and cloud company. And that was really cool because I learned kind of the whole sales funnel and how selling works, and how to nurture leads, how to generate leads, and there was a lot of learning in that aspect, which I really enjoyed. But I think the nature of the work was a little bit understimulating because I was doing all the top of funnel stuff. So that's like finding the leads, and that's a lot of grunt work. That's a lot of quote unquote knocking on doors. So it's like cold DMing, cold emailing, cold calling, and that was the nature of that work, which I started in March 2022, and this one also didn't last particularly long. Oh no, it could have been earlier 2022. Anyway, I know that I stayed at that job for 8 months. So I did that. It was very nice and comfortable, but the work was not kind of fulfilling me. And during that time, I continued taking personal training clients before work. And it really wasn't a thing about generating extra income, to be honest. It was because I enjoyed that and I wasn't finding fulfillment still in my corporate job. And it was kind of a theme that emerged along the way, where fitness was always there, and it was there as something that kind of provided that fulfillment. But I was kind of ignoring it for what it was, which was like, it was actually it is actually a calling for me. Like it's something that I clearly, must be in. But I kind of ignored that. It didn't seem sensible. It didn't seem responsible. So yeah, kept it as a side thing. So yeah, 8 months after joining that new company, that entailed my moving overseas as well. And I wasn't really at that time very open to leaving South Africa. I'm very optimistic about South Africa. I don't share the sentiment that a lot of my peers do, which is that the grass is greener. I think South Africa holds a tremendous amount of opportunity, and there's also a duty on people like myself who've had access to good education to kind of plow that back into the country. So I felt guilty. I didn't feel that leaving. I felt like I was kind of abandoning my duty as a South African by leaving. So I was like, you know what, I don't like this job. I feel like it's wrong. I'm going against like my gut, and I know that I like fitness. Let me just stay. And we're sitting now obviously in the first Horizon. If you look across the way, there's a building 23 on Arthur's, and I used to live in that building, and there's a gym downstairs, which if you look across from this gym, you can see into the 23 on Arthur's gym. And I used to train there very often during my lunch breaks and before work. And one day, whilst I was training in that space, whilst I still had my job, I saw a to let sign, not in this location that we're currently in, but downstairs. And I thought that would be a really cool location for a gym. And I mean, over the years, I'd said to friends of mine, once I've kind of done my kind of paid my dues in corporate, I'd love to open a gym of my own. So I'd often just be on the lookout randomly for gym spaces, not because I had any real intention, but because it was more of like a fantasizing sort of fantasy around what that would look like one day. But anyway, I saw the space downstairs, thought that it was cool. Looked, I don't know, a couple of days to a week later, it was gone. But when I looked up, I saw that in this space that we are currently in right now, there was a to let sign. And I thought, it's not quite like the bottom, but that could also be a pretty cool gym location. And this was whilst I was very seriously considering quitting my job. So I saw that. I made an inquiry. I kind of called the people who had listed it, and I said, can I come and have a look? And it was around about the time that I started chatting to these people that I decided that I wanted to quit. So I quit my job on a Monday or a Tuesday, and by the Friday, I had come into the space, looked at the space, checked out all the specs, had a potential equipment guy come in and look at the space with me, and I'd signed the lease. So there was probably like a 3 to 5 day gap. And looking back on it, that was I would say a very brash and like young entrepreneur's thing to do, where I didn't really think too much about it. I just thought this feels good and feels like a good opportunity, so I'm gonna go for it. And that was where the Horizen journey started. So in about I think it was October 2022, I signed the lease for the space, and we had opened our doors and put up signage and everything by November. But the idea was not to be officially trading at that time, because we had beneficial occupancy, which means you can be in the space and trading, but you're not paying rent. So it's what a landlord kind of offers as an incentive to guarantee that the tenant signs up. So we had that little bit of a runway. And at that stage, there were a whole bunch of things that still needed to arrive. Some equipment wasn't here, but we were kind of figuring it out. And I remember, whilst I was kind of moseying on around 23 on Arthur's, dial the clock back 4 or 5 months, whilst I was bummed out at my job, I often used to see this quiet guy walking through the hallways there. He always used to wear earphones, and never really interacted with him. I would greet, but he was like pretty much to himself, but didn't make much of it. And around about the time that the space had been we'd signed the lease and whatnot, I remember this guy coming up to me and being like, what are you doing for cleaning? And I remember he's like, I hear you're opening a gym across the road. What are you doing for cleaning? And at that time, I was mates with the security guys at the front desk. And I don't know if it was Elvis or who it actually was, but he said I had told him, and he mentioned it to this guy who was like walking around in the hallways, who turned out to be Sungani Bonali, the goat, who came up to me and was like, "Yo, what are you doing for cleaning?" I was like, "That's so crazy that you asked, because I'm actually looking for somebody to come and help out with that." So yeah, Sue and I were the first people in the space, and we kind of manned the fort for the first, I don't know, 2 months or so, maybe 3 months, kind of officially in the Horizen, this Horizen 1.0, as we kind of fitted it out and got all the equipment and stuff in here. But yeah, obviously he's still here, so he's a day one, and he's kind of, kind of been so much has come out of that little interaction in the hallway, which is so cool. But yeah, so it was also around that time that we had Gideon come in, and he kind of just so this is also something that I haven't actually said out loud on record yet, but whilst I was at my old company, so when you do a sales role, often these companies give you tools where you can what's called prospecting, so find potential clients, and they give you these tools where you can make lists according to certain filters. So let's say, for instance, you are selling, I don't know, pillows. What you can do is you can filter for all of the buyers at bed stores in Cape Town. And you can do that whether it's on like a LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or it's on, I don't know, whatever other tool it might be. And you can then filter for all these people. And I did that with all the personal trainers in Cape Town as I was like in the process of leaving my old job, which is probably not the most legal thing ever to do, but but I did that. And Gideon was one of the people that I found, and we got on the phone. And I mean, what was quite amazing about that was I actually showed Gideon this space before it was a gym. It was like a construction site, pretty much. There was rubble all over the floor. Like, there's actually a video of Gideon walking through the space, and I'm like taking a video, and there's like bricks and like literally like dust and piles of bricks everywhere. And I just showed him like a render of the gym, and I was like, "This is the plan. This is what we're gonna do. This is like the vision." And he was like, yeah, he was super open to that, and he is also now obviously a part of the core team. But yeah, so we kind of got our teeth sunk into this first location, and kind of it was very, very quiet the first 3 months or so. And I remember saying to Sue, I was like, "Bro, what if nobody comes?" I'm like, "I've just signed this lease. I've never seen the number this big in my life, like on the monthly rental." I was like, "I've paid this money for the space, and there's nobody coming here. Like, we've got like 4 members or something, and it's been like 2 months." And like, I was like genuinely quite concerned. And also, funnily enough, I did used to live here, which I've mentioned a few times. Like, my bed was in that room. And yeah, so I'd wake up every morning early, open the gym, wait for Sue to get in, hang out with Sue, complain about nobody being here, and stress that we're not going to pay the rent, and then go back to bed at 9 o'clock when the gym closed. But eventually, like, kind of with time, we built up a little bit of a membership base, and started building cool stuff, adding cool things to the gym, and like organically getting it to a little bit more of a space that we were proud of. Obviously, we were proud of it from the beginning, but kind of that growth happened, and that was really cool. And slowly but surely, the team started to build out. But somewhere along the line, about 6 months in, murmurs started with our old neighbors, the press, and Kimchi downstairs, that they were actually going to redevelop this whole block. And I was kind of like, oh, I had no idea that that was happening. I didn't know that obviously this place is set to become a hotel in the next, like, I don't know, 2-3 years. And that, honestly, that piece of information probably would have prevented me from signing the lease in the first place. So maybe it wasn't such a bad idea or bad thing that I didn't know. But that's when we started to kind of look around as a team and go, we should probably proactively look for another space, because we know that we're trying to build something long term. We really want to make a space where members feel at home and we can build and grow with them. And that is something that you kind of don't feel when you know that you're on borrowed time. Every cent that you invest, you second guess, because you're like, when are they going to knock the place down? What can we move? What can't we move? And all these kinds of thoughts that come with, the risk of redevelopment. So we started looking, and we've been looking. And nothing really jumped out at us. We had quite strict kind of parameters for what we wanted. And eventually, probably about a year, almost a year after we started looking, we found something that made sense. And that is, yeah, that's the 126 on Main Road that we'll be moving into, starting on the 26th of September. So that's where we're moving. And I mean, the move is mainly driven by the fact that we want to mitigate the risk of investing in the space and then having to shift everything over on the back foot, because obviously, like in our lease clause, there's a 4-month notice period, so they can tell you you've got 4 months to move out. We're redeveloping, and that's all kind of fair play, which is fine. But it's quite an aggressive timeline to be told, okay, you've got to move. So our kind of approach was, we've got a membership base that is it's healthy, and we want to continue growing with that membership base, but obviously we are feeling restricted by the imminent redevelopment. So decided to move to a bigger and what we feel to be much better space. Yeah, that's kind of how we got to the current point in time. There are obviously a whole bunch of challenges that will come with that. Someone just walk in. Challenges that come with that, but it's very exciting. So it's obviously it's going to be on the ground floor, which is big. A big kind of hurdle that we've had to manage is that obviously our entrance is quite tucked away, so it's oftentimes that people will miss where to come into the gym. We also share an entrance with a restaurant, and restaurants have a lot of refuse, so there's a lot of mess in our entryway that's very gross. And if you're trying to offer a premium service and kind of have clients come and be in the space and they're paying a certain amount, that's not really something that you want to subject them to, and it's kind of out of our control because we clean it as much as we can, but there's only so much you can do with restaurant refuse that's kind of spilling all over the floor every day. So yeah, there are a number of things that are kind of really exciting about the new space, and yeah, that's kind of I suppose the roadmap and how we got to this point now. There are a bunch of things that are going to change. There are a bunch of things that are going to stay the same. But I think kind of the most exciting bit is obviously that everyone who's a part of our community, and obviously those who will become a part of the community, will have access to a bigger, better, cleaner, more modern, more accessible space. So that's kind of, I suppose, yeah, everything to do with the move and how we got to this point now. I suppose the biggest challenges that we encountered up until now have kind of been just the logistics of the move itself, and timing it, I think, so that we minimize the kind of disturbance and inconvenience to members, because obviously moving entails closing the existing space for a while. I think what is a bit of a blessing is obviously that it's, we're still in the depths of winter, so people are, I think if they have to take 2-3 days off of the gym, it's not going to be a train smash. I remember when we did a renovation here in about, when was it March or something? I don't know when we knocked the wall down, but when we did a renovation here, it was still the back of summer, and we got so much pushback. Like, people were asking for, like, I don't know, like, it was ridiculous. It was like 97 Rand reimbursements for the days that they couldn't use the gym, and yeah, they were hacked. They were not happy that they couldn't use it. So hoping to kind of circumvent that this time. It's all part of it at the end of the day, and it'll be something really cool that everyone gets to experience when we move there. It's also really exciting because I think Block is doing a lot of exciting stuff as a developer, and obviously we've partnered with them, or we are a tenant of theirs now, and it's an exciting prospect to be a part of that network. They're developing a really cool lifestyle node in Sea Point with the tenants that they're bringing into their portfolio. So I think being a part of that is something that excites us a lot as well. And just from a brand equity point of view, it's a very beneficial relationship for both parties. I think we bring a neighborhood feel to a typically intimidating industry, and Block is in the business of developing neighborhoods. So I think that's something that's really well aligned. And it's cool because you can feel that in kind of how the negotiations and how the conversations have been going. Is like you feel like you're working together with the landlords and with the developers. But yeah, I mean, it's now just under a month until we move. Everything is well underway. And if you are a Horizen member, or if you have ever come to Horizen and purchased a thing, you will be receiving an email from me just to let you know that we are moving. And yeah, I'm really excited to be doing that. I think it's also well timed, just in the sense that, of course, we're moving in winter, but it is just as summer begins that we'll be opening the new space. So that's going to be really cool. And I think, yeah, there's a whole lot of growth and value there for everyone when we move. But short one today, but that's the kind of update, the status update on things with the move. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to pop me a DM or DM us on Instagram. We are very happy to kind of chat about that. Mark, do you have any questions? Yeah, Mark's been over the story a number of times already, so it's all good. But thank you so much for listening. Drop me a DM if you want to chat about anything training or move related. Happy to fill you in there. Have an awesome week or weekend, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the show, guys. We love answering specific questions. So if there's anything you want to know, leave a comment or reach out to us directly at Horizen ZA on Instagram, or email us at movement@horizengym.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Seb Prentice, and this is Beyond Physical.